So images are one of the places where you can really improve your website. But the first thing you need to do when you're getting an image for your website is you have to get that image. And a lot of people are tempted to just go to Google, do a search for images, and then download whatever they find. And that's really not okay. Because images are copyrighted, and unless you know for a fact that the image is valid and usable for your use, Google doesn't care. They just provide the search for it. So what I do is I go to image quality sites like this one, Pixabay, and it's pixabay.com, Pixabay. And this is a great site. It's, as they say, 440,000 free photos, vectors, and art illustrations. What I like about them is they're actually free for both commercial and for personal use. A lot of the free websites you'll see that they're free for personal use, but you can't use it if you're a website owner or you're going to use it commercially. And Pixabay is great for that. The other place you can get images is to use your own images. And that's what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to insert a picture of my dog in this website. And the way you insert images is you use the image tag, IMG. Because images are a separate file, you have to use an attribute to define where that file is. And in this case, that's the source attribute, or SRC. And we're going to use mydog.jpg. I forgot to surround it in quotes. You don't actually need the quotes if there's no spaces in the name, but I like to use it because I think it keeps things safer. The only other attribute that's required for your images is the alt tag. And the alt tag is just text that would happen if somebody came to this that was, say, using a screen reader or something else that they couldn't view the image. So this is what they would get instead. It is the alternate text. So we'll save that document and then we preview it. Wow, that's a pretty big image. It's so big you don't even see my dog. That's not very useful. So let's go in and add some CSS to make it a little bit easier to see. I'm just going to style it with the image property. You can style it with classes, you can style it with IDs, just like you do any other HTML element. I'm going to give it a width. I'm going to set it to 300 pixels wide. Now, I could go in and figure out what the best height is for it and then tell it to make it that. Or I could set it to say, my own height. So I could set it to like 300 pixels high and make it a square. But I know for a fact this image isn't a square. And so if I do that, he's kind of squished up and down. Shasta was a thin dog, but he wasn't that thin. So I want to go in and actually use a keyword, the keyword auto, and that tells it whatever this width is, the image should be automatically the same height that it would be if you were to scale it down in, say, an image editor. And then when we preview it, that's better. And that's more like Shasta would look. And as you can see, you can now see the image in the page. Another thing that you want to learn how to do, and this helps with responsive design, a lot of people use images in responsive design and they want the image to resize depending on who's looking at it. One way you can do that is to put your images inside a container, and in this case I'm going to put it in a div. So instead of styling the image itself with the width and height, I'm going to style the div, and I want the div to be a width of 400 pixels. And I'm not going to set the height because the div will automatically resize to the height of whatever's inside it. But then I want to make sure that the image doesn't take up more space than the div. Right now, again, if we go in and look at it, it's huge because even though the div is containing it, HTML works such that whatever the content is how much space it will take up. Even though you've said make it a 400 wide element, the browser sees that the image is bigger than 400 pixels and so says, well, I have to take up more space in order to fill this image. So I'm going to resize this image, but instead of giving it a width of 400 pixels, I'm going to give it a width of 100%. Now, if the image were inside the body of the document, that would mean that the image would be 100% the width of the page. But because we've put it in the div, which we've resized to 400 pixels right here, now the picture of Shasta is 400 pixels wide, and the browser knew to automatically make the height scale the same height as it would have been if it were resized in an editor. The one thing you have to remember when you're working with images is that large images like this picture of Shasta are large to download. And even though bandwidth is getting better and high-speed internet is making things faster. Lots of people are viewing things on phones, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend all of my data downloading a picture of my dog, even though he's my dog. If I don't want to spend my data minutes on my dog, I shouldn't expect you to spend your data minutes on my dog. So it's always a good idea to optimize your images, only use the image size that you need, make it as big as you possibly can, but no bigger. So if you have an image, you know you're going to need it to be 900 pixels wide, don't go bigger than that. 900 pixels is that, if that's the largest you know you're going to need, then 900 pixels is what you should set it at. And then you can resize it in other browsers, and we'll learn more about that in lesson 12, how to do that. But you can resize it so that it fits in other windows, even if they're not 900 pixels wide. Make sure you optimize your images so that they're as small to download as possible, and use the largest size you need, but no larger than that. And that's how you add images to web pages.